Can you declare definitively that he's the quarterback for the rest of 2021?
Definitively that he's the quarterback, barring no, there's a lot of things that barring injury, yeah. I mean, when I say, he's our quarterback, that is me, saying we're committed to him.
After Mike Tomlin on Tuesday, no one else is going to sell me on the perfunctory denial, Myles. He's ruined it for everyone. Hasn't he?
You mean is Tua the quarterback?
Who? Tua who?
Who's that? Quarterback of the Dolphins? Like the Dolphins, of Miami? I mean, you gonna go swimming with them? What was that? What was that? Oh my gosh.
And the broader context was they were trying to get him to definitively say there's no way, no how they're going to trade for Deshaun Watson. So this was all part of that guessing game. But here's the thing. First thing I thought, and you saw the text thread when Josh Alper told us he was going to write that Flores just said Tua Tagovailoa is the starter for the rest of the year. He said the same thing about Josh Rosen 2 years ago and benched him one game later for Ryan Fitzpatrick. So none of this is meaningful. None of it is binding unless it's delivered the way that Mike Tomlin did it on Tuesday. That's the only way I'm ever going to believe anybody ever again, is if they tell me what it is and how it is in a very pissed off demeanor and get up and walk away. That's it. Nothing else is credible. So, 5 for Friday, first topic. Will this be Tua's last start for the Miami Dolphins, Myles?
I say no. I mean, Brian Flores just told us he's the starter for now. Not because of that, though. I feel like even if they do acquire Deshaun Watson, we've been talking about this earlier in the week, Mike, it seems like the Texans are going to take this down to the wire so that Deshaun Watson wouldn't start against them next week. So I'm going to say he's going to have at least one more start for Miami after this week, and it'll be against the Texans.
I agree with you, and I wonder if at some point this week the Texans thought, you know what, we don't need to get this done now. Let's get it done next week so we minimize the chance that we do see Deshaun Watson right out of the gates playing for the Dolphins, because that's one of the few games left on the schedule that they have a chance to win if Deshaun's not playing. And I also wonder, and I wrote about this at PFT today, are these teams able to land the plane? Is there enough dysfunction between the Texans and the Dolphins combined to screw this thing up and keep it from happening, even though everyone involved wants it? There's a chance they're not going to get this done because the two teams aren't able to reach the point where they say, okay, let's both turn the keys on the launch code and get this thing done. Just like the Browns and Bengals screwing up a trade for A.J. McCarron several years ago. You can't rule that out. But I agree with you. We're going to see Tua at least against the Texans, and then there's a possibility of paid leave. There's all sorts of reasons why that we will still see Tua, and I think they're going to keep Tua. I don't think they're going to try to dump him on the way in for Deshaun Watson. I think they keep Tua for the rest of the year and then try to trade him in the offseason once maximum teams come to the table. All right, next question. Cleveland on Sunday, the Browns hosting the Steelers. Will this be Big Ben's final start in Cleveland, Myles?
The last time Big Ben tolls for thee in Cleveland or whatever, I don't know. I was trying to make a joke. I don't think it worked. Anyway, I think it probably is.
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're allowed. You're allowed.
Mistakes.
I'm not going to ridicule you the way you would ridicule me. You would ridicule me. I will not ridicule you.
Thanks.
I know you would.
Like you should. But no, I think it is probably the last time, we're going to see him in Cleveland. And it's funny, he said this week he's glad that that a quarterback, that quarterback being Baker Mayfield, has finally taken over as the winningest quarterback in First Energy Stadium, because it was him for a long time, because all he would do was go to Cleveland and beat my poor Browns. So this week, I feel like the Browns have a good chance to win if their defense plays well, and if Ben Roethlisberger comes off the bye week maybe a little bit rusty, doesn't have that timing down quite there with his receivers and things like that, then the Browns have a good shot at winning this thing, which they probably do anyway. But yeah, I think this is probably the last time we see Roethlisberger, because he's obviously, on his last legs.
I think the time off actually helps Ben Roethlisberger because he'll be healthier. Probably. He was limited in practice on Wednesday with the pec and the hip and the lingering problems. but he's never going to be any healthier this year than he'll be this weekend. And I think that the Mike Tomlin moment from Tuesday was a manifestation of his overall intensity right now as he's getting ready to try to even things out after the Browns showed that the Browns is not the right way to view this team the way Juju Smith-Schuster did last year. So I think it will be the last time we see Ben Roethlisberger ever playing in Cleveland, unless he ends up with some other team that plays in Cleveland, and I don't think that's going to be the case either. We haven't seen enough from Ben Roethlisberger this year to think anybody else would want him if the Steelers no longer do. Do the Saints have the firepower offensively post Drew Brees to keep up with what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are doing, Miles?
I don't think so, Mike. I really don't. And it's interesting because we've seen the training wheels sort of start to come off of Jameis Winston a little bit when they were in Washington, and Jameis Winston had 4 touchdowns, nearly 300 yards that game. But it's really kind of been a buttoned-up passing game for them. I mean, it's almost like you don't want Jameis Winston to do too much because that's how he starts making mistakes. But I just feel like the way Tom Brady's playing right now, which is at an MVP caliber level, and the weapons that they've got on offense, even without Antonio Brown, it looks like Gronk is coming back this week. So if all of those things are pairing together, I just don't know how they're going to be able to score enough points, especially because they want to run the ball so much, and you're not really running the ball against Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah, that's the problem. And I think Jameis Winston, no matter how much he says he's not going to be emotional, this is his first start against the team that drafted him, that kept him for 5 years, and that threw him overboard and was vindicated in their decision by winning the Super Bowl. But still, he's going to be emotional. And the challenge always is with Jameis Winston, get him play within himself, take what's there, deliver the ball accurately underneath. But he always seems to be looking for that big play, and he's going to be looking for it because he's going to want to match Tom Brady stride for stride if he can, and I don't think he will be able to. Fourth question. As we move through 5 for Friday, what will the 49ers-Bears game tell us about what both teams did at quarterback this offseason, Miles?
It's interesting because you have a team right now in the Bears that has done some good things. I mean, obviously, and then they've done some really poor things when they play good teams. I mean, when they play good teams this year, they just have not looked very good. I mean, you could see it last week, only scoring a couple points against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So now it's like, well, you know that Justin Fields has the potential, but I think it would tell us more if Trey Lance were healthy and still playing, right? If they didn't have this whole thing with Jimmy Garoppolo where he's still the starter, even though I believe that Trey Lance came off the injury report entirely. I think you heard that just before we got on the air. So there's just this weird dynamic right now with San Francisco where it's almost like it's time to start questioning Kyle Shanahan and also John Lynch, because they should be better than they are, even with Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, you shouldn't be blown out at home in a real big rain game by the Indianapolis Colts.
Peter King made the point earlier this week that the 49ers are 8 games under 500 during the entire Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch regime, which when you take out 2019 means they have been horrendous. 2017, 18, 20, and this year. And I think Lynch, the way things are currently going, I think Lynch is going to be out after this year. I think he's going to be the scapegoat, the fall guy, the guy who gets replaced because Shanahan's clearly in charge. Usually the GM hires 2 coaches before the GM's in trouble. This is the model where the coach gets a second GM and somebody who can do a better job of helping him set the table. But also what he needs is what Bill Belichick has had from time to time, which is a good voice and personality to push back against things Belichick would want to do. Somebody who can be that conscience. The problem is whoever in that organization is pushing back is not pushing back effectively. Hey, you want Kirk Cousins. How about Jimmy Garoppolo instead? Gee, thanks for that one, whoever talked him into Jimmy Garoppolo in the organization. And then, hey, you want Mac Jones? How about Trey Lance instead? Gee, thanks a lot for that one, too. Oh, you don't want Tom Brady? You want to keep Jimmy Garoppolo? Gee, thanks again. I mean, they have been whiffing on these quarterback decisions. Oh, and they passed on Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson in 2017. It's been a mess. It's been a mess, and at some point, somebody's getting fired over it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, especially about Tom Brady, now that we know what we know about Jimmy Garoppolo and what they did to replace Jimmy Garoppolo this year, right? And Trey Lance, God bless him, but he's not been able to get on the field. And the time that we saw him play because of Jimmy Garoppolo's injury, I wasn't that impressed with what I saw. So I think that Lance is talented, and I think that in time he will be able to be a successful quarterback, especially in that Shanahan system. But he's got to be able to pick it up. And, to this point, he's just not ready to play. And I think that says something about somebody. I'm not sure if it's about Shanahan, the way he's teaching it, or in Trey Lance and the way he's learning it, or the scouting staff and the way that they decided that he was the best fit for that particular job. But it says something about somebody.
Well, and to the extent that anybody out there says, wait a minute, you mean to tell me they would have been better off with Kirk Cousins and Jimmy Garoppolo? Yes, because actually, yeah. Cousins never gets hurt. He never gets hurt. He never gets hurt, and I've just jinxed him to suffer a serious injury on Sunday night by saying that. Number 5, does Bill Belichick have the tools at his disposal to hold down Justin Herbert, a quarterback whom Belichick praised heavily on Monday, Myles?
I think that this week the Chargers are going to come out and they're going to roll the Patriots. I really do. I mean, they had a bad showing against the Baltimore Ravens right before that bye week. It was sort of this weird game where nothing kind of went right for them. I think they're going to get back on track. They're rested. And yeah, Bill Belichick can confuse the young QBs, but I just feel like off the bye week this week, I'm rolling with Justin Herbert in that offense, even without Austin Eckler.
45-0. 45-0 was the score last year when the Patriots went to L.A. and destroyed the Chargers. Different coaching staff. Chargers surely remember what happened last year, and I think it'll be a different story this time around. The key is going to be, and this is a point Sims made this week, Patriots can run the ball, and the Chargers have a very hard time stopping the run, so that's something to keep in mind. I think the Chargers will win, but it's not going to be easy. The Patriots have been in pretty much every game that they've played this year. I can't think of one where they were just blown off the field. The Saints took care of them pretty handily, but other than that, they've been competitive unless I'm missing something, and there's a chance I am.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.